Nintendo had their own set of announcements. I wouldn't say Nintendo's conference was necessarily as interesting this year, but they
Less
don't
interesting, more game focused.
more Smash Brothers
Yeah.
focused.
No Labo?
They released it. They're done. No more cardboard. Yeah,
Didn't bother showing or touching on any of that, or
yeah. There's none of that, but they didn't. They kind of only briefly mentioned a couple games.
yeah.
Only a couple first-party titles, really. There's the Smash Brothers, as mentioned, which is now the complete package.
We have Ridley after all these years. What else could they have possibly added? Like, people have begged them for Ridley for 20 years now. It's like they had to. There's nothing else they could possibly give people.
What other Nintendo characters?
Waluigi? Slippy?
No.
Happy?
What's her name from Super Mario Odyssey?
Rosalina?
Yeah. No, is it Rosalina in Galaxy?
Oh, yeah, it's Galaxy. The new girl in Odyssey?
No, she is essentially the same one as the Game Boy version.
Yeah.
The princess from that.
Right, like Buttercup or something?
But essentially that would be like how they have Princess Daisy now.
Right.
And you've just got mirror
just color
characters.
swaps, it's all mirrors, yeah.
Yeah, there's only so many iconic Nintendo characters.
But we got Splatoons.
They've got an
I'm
inkling
surprised
of
they didn't
that.
have arms. Like
That is true. They already have Little Max. They got at least a boxer, but they've got a few sword users, so it would make sense to bring in Little Max.
Range type, yeah.
But
I'm excited for more Smash Brothers. It's a huge family hit of mine. The game never gets old, and it's good for the tournament play. Like, Nintendo needs something that's right there with Fortnite community and League community and streamable, and people care to watch. I think that's the game to do it. If anything, Nintendo has is.
are you saying that
I'm sad.
Super Mario Party is not the streamable
I don't
game?
know. I don't even. Is that game like still relevant? Is it necessary? Who does like brings over the party and plays games anymore? Rock Band community's dead. Like, games that were like about couch co-op with a bunch of friends just aren't in vogue anymore. People want to play. People around the other side of the world, they want to play big tournaments. They want to play battle royale.
Are you saying that Mario Party doesn't have a battle royale?
I think it's always gonna
mode?
be fun, and I bet it will have battle royale. 50 mini cons, so everyone can get in on the action.
Yes, but this is essentially the first. Let's say there was one on the Wii U.
Yeah,
and I want to say there was there was two on the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
But
the rest were like N64 heyday, and then
there haven't been quite as many Mario parties.
Much less.
Not as many gatherings of hipsters playing Mario Party.
No, sadly.
They might be interested in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, and
I am super interested in that.
Pokemon Let's Go Eevee.
That has finally trading. It's got 2-player co-op. Wandering. It's like the complete campaign from Pokemon Yellow, I gather.
All right.
It's just recreated with new graphics. 2 people can play it co-op. Simultaneously, you can import your Pokemon from your phone, from Go. You can trade with each other. It's got a lot of cool peripherals, like a little Pokeball in the world, so you can like effectively have a Tamagotchi of your Pokemon if you're not already doing that with Go daily.
You can get a stronger feeling of what it's really like to throw small balls at small animals.
Exactly. Like,
it's very important.
I think Pokemon is already freaking huge, and this is only going to make it bigger. Like, my Nintendo stock is only going to climb higher, so I'm happy about that, and I think this is a step in the right direction. It's still not the Pokemon RPG, like the very, I want like first-person immersive battle system, Coliseum. I want like a wide-open RPG world. Like, I want Zelda with Pokemon, basically. I want that world. And we're not there yet. Maybe in another couple generations we'll get to that game. Starring Hugh Jackman as Professor Oak. That's what I want. I want the movie. But we're getting Detective Pikachu with Danny DeVito as the voice of Pikachu.
The movie?
Yeah, the movie. That's amazing.
That's what we need.
That's what we need. So,
a more interesting story. Because most Pokemon games are just
fairly generic. Just do it from Team Rocket's perspective or something. Like, people love bad guys.
But you can't have the kids being the bad guys. They need to be the good guys.
Who fall in with the rough crowd of the bad and teach them a lesson in loving your Pokemon.
I suppose that would work as a story. Yeah. And then they happen to go by 8 gyms in the process.
Exactly, and fight the Elite Four. Yeah.
But like I said, there hasn't really been much for Nintendo to show off. The only other thing that really is new would be Demon Ex Machina.
Pretty cool looking. I didn't see that one coming. Didn't note it really at the time, but that it's good to see new properties come out of Nintendo. Like they always kind of rely on, in a year with no new Zelda and no new, like they only have like their 5 or 6 properties. I mean, we get new Rabbids Mario though. There's a new one of that.
Do you consider the Rabbids to be funny?
I don't. I find them annoying. Whereas I like get the Minions thing, but I don't get the Rabbids. I find them obnoxious. So not for me. And I like that style of gameplay. I like the strategic XCOM, board gamey type aspect of it, but I can't get into that game.
Yeah, it's like it's a game that's shown to 2 different audiences.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, who is this for?
It's for the kids who are into Rabbids.
Yep.
And the adults who are into...
They can't do shooters, so they want the turn-by-turn,
Or they like XCOM, but they want something that's less punishing.
I guess this is that game. I've never seen the sales numbers on it. Maybe they must be good if they're making a sequel.
If they're making an expansion, yeah.
Yeah. So, more power to you, Nintendo. But, otherwise just that new Mario racing. I mean, Sonic Racing, that looks cool. Not much Nintendo this year. They did not win. Usually it's Nintendo's game. They're always delightful.
Yeah, last year their antics were over the top and fantastic.
Huge, yeah. And this was Microsoft's year, if anybody's, so...
Although I would say Sony is a pretty close second with some of the titles that they showed.
Huge contender. They both delivered big time.
Starting off with The Last of Us 2. They didn't even wait till the end to have the big guns.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess...
But they touted their big 4
yeah,
as they should have, and those games are all made... They're the reasons people bought the console. The reason I bought the console, I wanted to play Last of Us 2. I wanted to play God of War. I wanted to play Spider-Man. And I wanted to play, Red Dead, but that's on both. So those exclusives are so good, though, that everyone buys that console for that game is amazing. It's one of the best games ever made. Story's incredible. I mean, Naughty Dog can do no wrong. They're so good.
And you can just see the trailer here, and you can see that amazing blend of cinema and gameplay.
And that violence is so gripping. Like, you feel that. I had to play that game in short bursts, because it was tense. So visceral. It's so nerve-wracking to the stealth. It feels so risky. It's like that game is prepared. It's apocalypse training. I mean, you watch that so you can learn how to smash someone's head with a brick from behind a counter. And
with The Last of Us 2, there's a lot of games where you have your hero in the first game.
Yeah.
By the end of the game, they have become the greatest soldier the world has ever known, and nothing can stop them. And in a sense, you could look at Last of Us, and by the end of the game, Joel's got an assault rifle.
Yeah.
Like, before, he picks up some bullets, and he's like, I got a bullet. And you're like, yes, finally, I can at least have one bullet.
Yeah.
But with this game, it seems there's clearly that you're not really on the offensive. That you are outnumbered and outgunned.
And by making Ellie the lead, it's kind of like you're not even the physical. You're physically at a disadvantage a lot of the time. Except she's got mad
she doesn't
skills.
Really seem.
She's got mad skills. She seems like she's.
She doesn't really seem like she has much of a physical disadvantage.
No.
As she has gained the ability to squeeze in between narrow gaps, which is something Joel was not able to.
Couldn't do it.
He was just too bulky to get in between those gaps.
It's safe to say the fight choreography was incredible. It was seamless. There was just the transitions were what Assassin's Creed wishes it could have with its fight choreography. Like, there's very few games where I've ever seen this level of just perfect fluidity between transitions of moves and kills, and there's consequences. Like, if you don't pull that arrow out so fast, that dude's gonna hit you with his pickaxe. Like, it's just, I'm already nervous about this game. Just watching that trailer, I was like, I'm afraid to play this game.
Yep. I guess it makes me wonder if there's also a dodge button going on there, too.
It definitely looked like there was some new mechanics in terms of, like, her evade or something, like sidestep and stuff, so which is good. She needs that, like, and she could do that.
Yeah. Focusing less on just punching people in the face and more about keeping yourself well-equipped, having plenty of melee weapons.
Yeah, exactly. But the story threads look compelling, too. I just want to get back into that world.
I expect all the people that she spends time with in that trailer to be dead.
It's just so stressful to see how dark her world's going to become.
Yeah, I don't want any of them because I already like them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just very concerned.
That supporting cast is going to die.
I'm very, very concerned about that.
Yeah. I don't know. We didn't see a lot outside of that. You know, they gave us the awesome story cinematics and they gave us the combat and, you know, not much else of the world building. So I look forward to that because I love that world. It's so rich and beautifully designed.
We've also gotten an upgraded view of Ghosts of Tsushima, which was only teased last year. We had a very, very brief look at it last E3, and now we have a look at the world, the story, combat,
level design. Holy cow!
The art.
That world is so good looking.
Like the duel at the end of the demo.
Yeah.
Like that looks like a cinematic duel in any old samurai film.
Exactly. It's Sukiyaki Western Django. It's just a, you know, man with the iron fist. It's so good looking and stylish. I think this is like kind of. I understand why they never did. Like an Assassin's Creed with like people were always like, why don't we get Assassin's Creed Japan? They couldn't really do that in the bounds of the story and the world and stuff. So I understand why like this property could be that.
Well,
in terms of like depth of history, story,
also
mechanics.
Since we've discussed earlier with Odyssey, is there's no there is no climbing or parkour system.
Right.
And if you eliminate that, then technically you could have an Assassin's Creed, as the games are kind of merging into different genres.
Yeah.
But in this case, there is some parkour. There's some roof climbing. There's jumping between walls.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of the PS1 game Bushido Blade, in regards to how quickly
running around those like straw mat.
People.
Yes, I totally remember that game and I loved it. Yeah.
Just like one slash.
Cool booby traps and running guys through it and just seeing the body slide off at a diagonal. I'm stoked for this game. We need to see more of it, but I think it might be a little ways away still. So probably 2 years. Yeah.
If they had almost nothing to show last year,
and not much this year.
They had a brief demo this year, probably 2019.
That's 2020. A lot of these games though. Like we're starting to see more of these games, but it's like.
Well, I mean,
games take 5 or 6 years from development to the first tech demo to the first trailer, like to gameplay.
Like, how often was the Phantom Pain at E3? How often was Cuphead at E3?
Like 5 years.
There are plenty of games that do the cycles, and they're still in development.
They're compelling every time. Yeah.
Because you have to kind of build it up. You can't just rush things out.
It's the same deal for this new Spider-Man. Like, I am extremely stoked for the Spider-Man. It looks so good. It looks like Arkham Asylum with Spider-Man. You're fighting the Sinister Six, so you got all the cool iconic bosses, the gameplay, the traversal of that web slinging. It's Spider-Man 2 all over again. That was like the best part. You could just web sling all day and you'd enjoy yourself. It looks so good.
It's interesting that the only supervillains locked up in the raft are Spider-Man villains.
Yeah. Well, you gotta bust them out. I mean... I don't think we're gonna see. There's some super.
No crossover yet.
None of that. Yeah, they gotta save some for the sequel. Speaking of which, like, weren't they hinting at Superman, Rocksteady's Superman game, but we didn't get to see it because they won't. I guess they won't.
I don't know what Rocksteady's up to. Yeah.
Everyone's saying Superman game. Like, apparently there's leak footage out there, so of like a really good, like not Superman 64, like we're talking a really legit like a depowered, Superman, like flying over the city, which looks incredible. So
hopefully
that would be cool.
It'll be the first good Superman game.
Superman game ever. Yeah, that would be nice.
Superman does not have a very good track record with video games.
Does not, no. What was the other big Sony?
Well, we'll get to Death Stranding in a bit, but for me there was Control.
Control. Oh my god. Remedy is one of my all-time favorite companies. They haven't made a bad game. You got your Quantum Break, which was their Xbox exclusive, but kind of a down.
Yeah, Xbox One exclusive.
Cool time mechanics. They're always really interested in altering reality. You got your bullet time. That's what they're known for, is Max Payne. But they're kind of an unsung company because they take 5 or 6 years between games. They're very long-winded.
They do.
Narrative heavy, multimedia heavy.
And after the release of Alan Wake,
yes,
Sam Lake talked about that. Like earlier in their life cycle, Sam Lake described that they're a game developer, not a production company. They don't just produce games.
Yeah.
But at the same time, after Alan Wake, he admitted that maybe they took way too long in that game.
They could be faster. Yeah.
They could do a little bit.
It's kind of like Hideo. He admitted in an interview this time around, same thing, E3 Coliseum. He's like, I could be faster. I understand it's hard to be my boss. Like, Konami was. It hurts relationships when I'm not producing game and giving them product. I can narrow my vision. So I really think, lessons can be learned here for these studios to produce game and find the happy middle ground. And I'm the same way. Every artist and writer understands that something done and out into the world is far better than something just, picked over and perfected.
And seeing how well the Phantom Pain ended up turning out, regardless of Konami's issues, there were still issues in the game too.
Sure.
You can't perfect a game of that scope.
Yeah, open worlds are very difficult. There's always going to be something, especially with that level of mechanics.
I suppose since we already started talking about it, let's Death Stranding. Again, another trailer. Again, new mysteries. Every trailer offers more questions, not answers.
It's lost. It's just infinitely deep. That's why I'm like sinking my teeth into this game, because I'm like, I want to know everything. I was researching like whale strandings today, like cetacean strandings, like on Wikipedia all day. I'm just like, I want to know everything, every bizarre biological, humanist, transhumanist theme. It's just such a strange mind that could conjure this world where time decay, and his games are always themed about like aging and senescence and like the human body horror and navigation, and kind of like the bizarre systems of having to eat and paint yourself with camouflage and Snake Eater. Like those were very strange like subsystems, and this time it's like you're having to actually balance your gear in your backpack, and you're having to maintain your boots and stuff, and pick your toenails, and
that's also Kojima and him making just systems for, like,
on top of systems
for the hell of it,
yeah,
because he's interested.
He's
like
interested, He's a filmmaker, and his photography is amazing, and his emphasis on his actors is amazing. But always, he's a systems guy.
But he'll make a system just because he wants to, not if the game necessarily wants it. But it still meshes with the rest of the game itself.
And Norman Reedus is huge, and Mads Mikkelsen and Guillermo del Toro. I think this could be like the perfect storm game where it's like this game could come out in 2 or 5 years, and people will still be hot for this game.
I have a feeling this will come out sooner than you'd expect. I would be surprised if it comes out after 2019. He
did say it would come out in the year Akira came out, so he's kind of under the gun to put it out in 2019. So if we get it next year, I think it'll be late, and I think it'll be amazing, because it looked like they were far on it from all the little snippets he showed us, which were different portions of the game, I think. I'm fascinated. I mean, I've been drawing nothing but since I saw the trailers, I'm just like, I just want to draw all this stuff. I'm going to build all this stuff. I want to build the cosplay. I want to know.
Let's give it better.
I want to know everything about this game. Suffice to say, crazy good world building and just tons of creep factor. I want to know everything. Or maybe nothing, because I don't want to ruin the surprise for myself.
Will it still be a mystery by the time you're done with the game? Will you still be asking questions?
Inevitably.
Probably, yes.
Every Kojima game, I've played them all, every Metal Gear, and I like that he's, free to do something new. It's really cool. I'm excited. But I don't know, and it's not tied to all the lore. Or another cyclical iteration of Metal Gear.
Well, there's only one last game to talk about. And that is a remake of Resident Evil 2.
the best Resident Evil, some would argue. I don't know. It's between 2 and 4 for me. Like, I love 4, but 2 was my first contact with Resident Evil, and looks impressive. Looks like they've added some new systems. It's not just a graphic overhaul.
It's a whole
very much
remake.
made a whole remake.
And definitely, what surprised me most about the trailer is the stronger focus on horror.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a Resident Evil 6-esque action game.
Which I'm glad for, because, I don't know, I liked 5 okay, and 6, and they just feel like they've lost their way somehow. Like, they're too far departed from the soul of the game and the property.
Did you notice the PlayStation 1 in the trailer?
No, but that's hilarious.
The rat is just, as the rat's walking around the trailer, the closet area. He passes by the PlayStation 1 and controller.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just cool to see like how a lot of generational things are coming around again too. Like,
that's true, but made just new again.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure they'll crank out a couple more Resident Evils because, Lord knows, zombies are still hot.
And God willing,
the games are zombie games.
We will all meet again in Resident Evil 8, The Search for More Money.
Yes.
And that was E3 2018.
That was E3. I mean, what would you say were your top 5 games?
I would say we should start with the bottom 5.
Okay.
Because that way we can at least end on a positive note.
The weakest show, or the weakest 5 games, or the biggest disappointment.
The biggest disappointments is probably the most accurate say, because the games themselves might not be bad,
right?
But the disappointing parts,
versus reality.
So, for me, the biggest disappointments were Command and Conquer not having a decent, proper sequel. Rage 2, like, what happened to the storyline of the first game? It wasn't a great storyline, but it seems like the characters were just kind of canned.
For an id game, yeah.
I don't necessarily care about Fallout 76 multiplayer features, but it does look like I can turn them off or just ignore them.
Yeah.
I can play offline. Anthem is a bit too generic for its own good.
Mm-hmm.
And Respawn should be given its own creative control instead of just assigned to Star Wars games.
It's just a waste of those guys' talent. Yeah, I would agree.
What would you say your biggest
Anthem's a huge disappointment. I wanted it to prove me wrong, and what a lot of the fans dreaded is that it would just be some generic, like, trying to cash in and ride the wave of the mainstream and mech suits and, you know, jungle future sci-fi. It looks so like what everyone else is doing. It's the perfect, like, median mode of what the whole industry is about right now, which sucks because I love BioWare and I want them to do interesting, cool things, which they're more than capable of. Like, they can deliver.
Like, how are you going to have conversation choices if the only action takes place in multiplayer-esque environments?
Jetpacks and I don't feel it. I wanted to see more from Bethesda. I guess, like, I thought we would get... I really wanted Borderlands 3. I thought for sure we would get it, and we didn't get it, so that kind of is irksome to me.
That's a separate topic.
Yeah, I guess just things
because Borderlands is a different company. They're Activision, or
they are 2K.
2K.
Yeah. I can see what you mean about like Fallout. I don't know. I wanted, when I first heard the idea of 76, like day one, people were like, "Hell's yes, it sounds amazing." But then, like, once more information came out, and it kind of there's room for disappointment there.
Like, do you want a narrative experience out of your Fallout game?
Which is the best.
Or do you want a multiplayer experience with your Fallout game? And it looks like we're giving a little bit more towards the multiplayer than the narrative. So far.
Yeah, it's really imbalanced.
They haven't really shown how the narrative is going to be told. Or if there is one, which I assume there's one.
I mean, there's got to be some semblance of one, right? I mean,
Fallout Settlement Crater Edition.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, obviously, I wanted Halo. We're still years off from getting a full Halo. There's nothing there of substance yet to renew my faith. I don't know. So many. Mostly, it's good. I don't have a lot of complaints. Like by and large, there's so much good stuff. Like
it was tough actually making this list. I feel almost like I'm
stuff to say.
Like I'm nitpicking Fallout 76, and Rage 2 not really following Rage 1 isn't really going to ruin my expectations. Yeah. And I probably still will play Anthem, but they could do better.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, otherwise. Yeah, Jedi Fallen Order is just, I don't have great expectations. I think they could make an amazing Star Wars game, and they're not willing to do so yet, and that's not the studio who's going to do it either, so... Surprise me. I could be wrong, and I hope I am. But yeah, otherwise, I'd rather talk about the good stuff. Like, there's plenty of it.
What would be your top 5?
Top 5, clearly, obviously stoked for Control, because I didn't think we would get anything out of Remedy this soon, because they take a while, but that premise looks amazing. The new character is really different. Every character has been Sam Lake, pretty much, like they've always just had him, so I know that story's going to be amazing, however they present it. What little we've seen of the gameplay looks just reality warping, mind-bending, really cool systems. The technology is finally capable of delivering, but this has never been possible before, and now we're seeing in Death Stranding that reality warping effect where you can just deform the level itself as part of the gameplay.
And something that's kind of what was the big deal about the Evil Within was that you could actually make the level change around you
in reaction to your failings or your success, and I think that's fascinating.
I would also note that Control is also on my list.
Yeah.
Because I love all of Remedy's games.
Yeah, they're easily one of my top 2 or 3 companies. They've not made a bad game, and they will continue to deliver amazing narrative stuff, which is what you don't forget. You always remember the story, even if the game... Sometimes you'll remember the game world was what will stick with you, like a certain GTA or Fallout 3, the immersion of the experience, but these are games with a story and the narrative, which for writers like us, if you can stick the landing, and they always have, that's the hardest part of a game, is a good ending, and they've done it every time.
And yet with like Alan Wake and both Alan Wake and Quantum Break kind of end with a little bit of a cliffhanger.
The issue of DLC, I think, that kind of dilutes the endings a little bit.
I suppose you could kind of walk away from Alan Wake being
like the writer.
Okay, I can this is sufficient enough.
Yeah. Even barring all the American nightmare stuff with all the DLCs, I didn't care for it. Second for me would be Cyberpunk 2077. That thing still has huge potential. We have to see a lot more of like the actual gameplay and like how much control you actually. I'm disappointed because they're talking about you not being able to choose specific classes. I want more of like a skill tree. Something more along the lines of like Skyrim or Fallout where you're choosing perks and skills. I like that progression.
Well, like you said, they showed most of it behind closed doors.
Right, so we'll probably get it.
Until they actually show something other than a CG trailer. Like
it just hints at the world. Yeah.
I feel like I can keep my interest only so high because it's CD Projekt Red. It's probably going to be really big. It's got everything going for it, yeah. But I can wait.
Yeah.
Until there's something to show.
Yeah, no, totally understandable. What was your next pick then?
Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
Because of that story, that cinema.
It's a known commodity at this point. Like,
it's a known commodity for what you could expect from the gameplay, but at the same time, it's like, where is the story going to go? We've already seen 3 separate trailers.
Yeah, that hinted at things.
One in which Ellie says that she's going to kill everybody.
Mm-hmm.
One in which you meet people who are not related to the story, and now this new current one. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, where is the story going to go?
Yeah, I think this is like a film franchise. You want to know where that story is going, and you know you're going to enjoy the ride anyway.
It's the way it goes. With Naughty Dog, I want to follow along with its characters.
Absolutely. It's like Uncharted all over again. It's just so much better this time around. So much more gripping. Next one for me, Skull and Bones, Ubisoft's pirate game. I think the mechanics look amazing. I think just that world is so compelling. It's so different. Like naval combat games, there's just not many outside of World of Ships. Or like Sid Meier's Pirates. It's always been very general and simplistic, and this has such complexity. And I like vehicular combat. I like historical fiction, and I think this will deliver. My only concern is the community development. Hopefully they have a couple DLCs that kind of maintain that.
Now, with Assassin's Creed 4, it had that same ship thing.
Yeah, Black Flag.
But I didn't really get into that to the point that by the end of the game, there's this point where you're supposed to get past 2 ships in order to reach a land destination.
Yeah.
And my ship was not qualified enough to do those.
Because you've been taking it easy and not developing it at all?
Because I didn't develop my ships.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was I just got in range with them, then I ran away, and then when they returned to their new positions, their new positions were slightly different from their old positions.
Gave you an advantage.
So I was able to sneak by and just continue playing the game and not have to worry about
so
sailing.
So little did you enjoy that sailing. Well, I guess we won't be playing together.
So that's the thing. That's the thing I like with the E3. Is there's content for everyone.
There's something for everyone. Yeah, even the games that we didn't even bother glossing over, they were so beneath our attention in the weighing of the hundreds of games. I mean, there's something for the.
It doesn't mean they're
Chad
all
bros.
That they're bad.
They're not. Yeah, they're not bad. They're just not our cup of tea.
It's just we're at like 2 hours or so.
Yeah.
So we got to narrow it down a little bit. Yeah. And like there was a tweet I read the other day in which somebody was commenting about how like people who are sending disagreements with game announcements.
Yeah.
That not everything's for everybody.
Exactly.
And part of me was like going with some of the follow-up arguments was like, well, what about Command and Conquer Rivals? That's clearly not even for Command and Conquer players. Yeah. But at the same time, while I was watching these conferences on YouTube, there's the chat log.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the chat log?
I do look at the chat, but it's so much cringe. It's just such a waste. It's the dregs of the internet.
There is nothing to be gained.
Nothing of value. All complaint, all trolls, all
Where is Avengers? Where is this? Where is that? Yep. Boring.
Yeah, it's like YouTube comments. I mean, there's maybe a few good ones in there, but 99% rubbish. Yeah.
The Andrew CK performance was not for me because I'm not into his style of music, so I just skipped ahead.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Totally fine.
You have the power to choose, much as I choose Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Like I can't restate that Tomb Raider is one of my favorite franchises now. I've played the new.
They've been very good lately.
I've played the remake on. So you got the PS3 copy over there. Yeah. There's a PS4 copy, Xbox 360, Xbox One. I bought it on every. I beat it on every system it is released on.
Wow.
Rise of the Tomb Raider, I've only beaten on both the PS4 and the Xbox One.
I don't buy multiple versions of the same game outside of like I think I did it for like Overwatch and like I'm gonna probably do it for Red Dead Redemption 2 and
it's I'm not saying advertising that as smart activity.
Yeah.
I just really like that game.
Sure.
And I enjoy just playing through it over again. I don't play through it to collect everything.
Yeah.
It's just the experience of playing it.
Gotcha. Totally understandable.
Which
next one for me, I would say Death Stranding. I mean, that thing looks amazing. Gameplay-wise, story-wise, it's going to be novel. I guess I always like newness. I want novelty. And this game looks like something just we've never quite seen before. And if you can introduce a couple new ideas that haven't been done, because everything is shooting. He described it like, he's like, everyone gets a stick, human invention. Everything's a stick in a game to beat someone with or press a trigger, and then the second human invention was the rope, which is to pull. And in this game, that's what it's about, is adjustment. It's about the other things that have been forsaken all this time, the more creative things. And I think just like a novel gameplay experience is worth so much these days.
Well, and that's also the thing with now that Kojima is not tied to Metal Gear.
Just making an action shooter.
Just making
He's
another
different kind
Metal
of hero.
Gear.
It's like Alan Wake.
Yeah.
That was a writer, and this guy's just a glorified Amazon Prime delivery guy. Who has
Would you
a
play
baby
Amazon
on him.
Prime Delivery Guy, the game?
I might.
You only have 30 minutes to make the new Amazon Prime 30-minute delivery.
Numbers. Yeah, I think like it's kind of like a sign of the times that like this is the hero, like the person who can deliver on time. In a world of like prioritizing every commodity and keeping track of all these different things pulling at us, like the guy who can hold on to all his stuff and just the deeper themes, I think like it will be fascinating to unpack.
Now, it's interesting that the trailer, he does pull out a gun at one point.
He does pull out a
but
gun.
it never shows him shooting it.
Right.
The closest
I suspect that will be like endgame or very minimal. And I don't think he's even supposed to have that gun. I think it's just a package that he has to carry. And at some point you can choose to bust that stuff or deliver it and get paid for it. Or you can crack it and use it to survive. And you can lose this stuff too. You can fall into crevasses, get washed away down a river. And it's like, I think he just like opens a present and he has to use it.
I get the impression that guns don't necessarily work on the shadow people.
Ghosts, yeah. I think it's the same thing. I think it might be other people that he's fighting, or at least puppets.
But we've seen 3 trailers for Death Stranding so far, and it's only more questions. So we'll have to see what happens from there. Death Stranding was also on my list.
Sure.
So I should just skip to my number 5, which is the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Really? That's okay. You're definitely like the classic gamer. You're like touching on all like the remakes and the...
But this also almost kind of fits in with what you're describing for Death Stranding as well, as this gives a new version of that thing that you loved.
For sure.
It's not necessarily tied to fixed camera angles and the story beats of the original version, while it's also still trying to be that horror game.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens from that.
I know what you mean. I guess I'm also guilty of the same thing. I'm gonna pick Beyond Good and Evil 2 for my last choice because that franchise meant a lot to me, and just the gameplay. I think it'll be a lot of throwback stuff. I think it'll be in a pure adventure sense of adventure, which is what I really love in my games. I want that Zelda experience where there's worlds to explore, novel experiences, the feeling of heroism, and also like this game just seems to do so many new weird things. Who doesn't love a flying monkey pirate? That's awesome.
Okay, so I'm probably going to get it, but the only reason why it's not necessarily on this list is because I want to know what happens next.
Yes.
I didn't necessarily want Beyond Good and Evil 2, the prequel.
Right.
Or should
and it is a prequel apparently, but it also like sets up the
space
heroine at the end. I don't know. It's a weirdly disjointed like prequel, so that's sometimes the case of things these days where, so we get Solo and Rogue One.
But then with years of time spacing out the original production of the original version and then the new version, which is actually from different creators.
Right.
Like the lead writer of Beyond Good and Evil 2. I have done no research into this, as I've only just thought about it now, but probably did not write the original
I don't think
game.
Michael Ansel...
but
I don't think this guy, the writer, is the same. But I think the design spirit is the same, and like a lot of the like character world building stuff is the same. So I'm happy to get back into it. It's like in a year without a Pikmin 4 or like so many other games that I would love to see. I think this is one that I'm like delighted to see return. If I have to say, like, I'm not usually into sequelitis. I just feel like it's otherwise I would have picked probably Division 2 would have been my next runner up because I think. Like, I love The Division, and I love that world building, but...
If you had to suffer
Watch Dogs 3,
from some sort of infection,
would
it rather be sequelitis or remake-itis?
I don't know. I feel like remake-itis is a better deal.
Like, remake-itis suffers
because
from...
it's a known thing that you love.
But you're just buying the same thing, essentially, over and over again, just new versions of the same thing.
You're definitely guilty of that.
Whereas sequelitis is at least progressing the storyline, even if it's the same thing.
Just a little bit.
Just nudging it forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on the case-by-case basis, because some remakes are just, like, worlds better. Like, I think this Final Fantasy VII, when that comes out, is going to be worlds better.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, I think, will be worlds better. I think, whereas, like, but then you look at, like, Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be worlds better as a sequel, so...
Although I suppose it might be more accurate to say that Resident Evil 2 Remake might not be necessarily, like, Resident Evil 2 Remake as it is released today might hit the same bar as Resident Evil 2 was when it was released back then.
Right, I don't think it's going to shake anything up.
But
that's
the act of playing the game today will be more seamless for the modern gamer.
Definitely. It will harken back to a glory day for the franchise and the player who played it originally.
Before there was, before they were putting the terror in
movable cameras.
Before, yeah.
Was that Nemesis, where he's chasing you through?
No, that would be 3.
You could just close the door and.
Although
Code Veronica.
No, Resident Evil 2 has Mr. X.
That's right.
Who now has a fashionable hat. He did not have a hat in Resident Evil 2.
So they've upgraded the hats.
They've really upgraded the game.
That's good. Get your money's worth on that.
It's fashion evil.
What would your runner-up be if there were any others that you'd be like, this is a must? I know you're going to buy everything on this list we've touched, but in a year I'll probably buy 5 to 10 games nowadays at this age. So the ones I've listed are the ones that will probably buy this year.
Ghosts of Tsushima was on the list before kind of getting shuffled out by Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler is a game that I tried the demo of, and it's actually really interesting and well written.
Cool.
It's a game where it's an RPG. You're playing as multiple characters, and they all have their own individual storylines.
I like that.
And it's very dark at times. But it's well made. I would say this E3 had a plethora of choices.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll have time to necessarily get around to all of them, but I will want to get around to most of them.
Backlog is deep. Hopefully we got a couple years till all these games become reality and we're living in a post-apocalyptic dystopia.
Well, if we do live in a post-apocalyptic dystopia, hopefully there are no loot boxes for us to suffer.
We can only hope.
Until next time.
See you next E3.